If you would like a certificate for participation, just email me and let me know, because it's kind of hard to keep track of everybody who logs in, but that way I can get you a certificate to use. So we're going to go ahead and get started. Like I said, feel free to type in your question, please, or if you want to wait until afterwards, you can email us. Either way is fine. So everybody can hear okay? Can somebody type in yay, nay? Okay. Okay, we got some yeses, so that's good. Thank you much. Alrighty, well, we're gonna let Brian take over.
One thing that we didn't mention there, if you go up under files by attendees, you can click that, and there's a couple of files that we've uploaded for you to use. The code footprint requirements is one that's pretty handy that we'll talk about quite a lot. We're going to talk today about the way that we do our plans review, the way our process works. Not saying that that's the correct way to do it. Definitely not saying it's the only way to do it. We're just going to talk about how we do it. Our process obviously changes a little as we go. It changes with technology. Obviously now we do the electronic submittals versus the hard copies of plans. So things do change. If you have questions though, like Mindy said, please go ahead and stick them up in the question box and we'll get to them as we can, or towards the end we'll have some time for questions also. Also, the last slide will have my email address on it. That's the best way to contact me and the best way to get questions answered. So we'll go ahead and get started. All right, we're going to talk about the code footprint. The regulation was put into place July of 2004. So code footprint's been around quite a while at this point. And most people are getting fairly accustomed to using it. It requires all public building owners and operators of all new construction, additions, and changes in use to provide for review and permanently maintain a code footprint at the site and make them available to fire authorities. So the code footprint is not only a useful tool for the design process and the initial inspection, but also as the years pass and our inspectors or local jurisdiction inspectors are at the site to do inspections, you can always ask for the code footprint, which should be on site, and it will show all the active and passive fire protection features, all the rated walls and so forth. So it's handy to keep around. Code footprint's a document that contains both graphic and narrative information that meets the requirement of this regulation. So basically, a code footprint's about half and half as far as the graphics and the narrative. There's a lot of narrative information required. The graphics, the floor plan, does not have to be a real in-depth floor plan on a code footprint. In fact, probably the more general, the better, as long as hazardous areas are easily identified, paths of egress, and so forth. They
Hey, good morning.
by a Kansas licensed design professional. This can be an architect or an engineer, but the stamp on a code footprint is crucial. We cannot approve a code footprint unless it is stamped. When facilities submit a code footprint, they have to submit a couple of forms along with the code footprint. I kind of put this class together for architects and engineers as well as local authorities. I believe most of who's participating in this today are local jurisdictions, but you may get the question, where do you find those two forms, the C22 form and the C22A form? If you go to our website, firemarshal.kansas.gov/plan review, or click plan review at the top of the page, it'll take you into a page on submitting a code footprint, and there's those two blue hyperlinks that take you to those forms. Those forms are basically just general information. The C22 form gives us contact information for the facility. The C22A form is a checklist for what is required on the submittal. As we mentioned earlier, submitted electronically. Most of the plans reviewers for the fire marshal's office, including myself, we don't normally work out of the Topeka office. Our offices are remote locations. So electronic submissions are much easier, much quicker. We used to have to FedEx plans back and forth, which slowed the process. So we definitely like the electronic submissions better. Also, we're able to manipulate the plans a little bit, and it's easier for us to make notes on the plans and send back and forth to the architects or the facilities in trying to work through issues. Plan submittals are required for all new buildings, additions, alterations, renovations, and remodel, more than 50%. This one's always one of those that's questioned. What is 50% of the project? I will say a fire alarm revision, if more than 50% of the fire alarm is being worked over, such as a new fire panel, we consider that more than 50%. So if it's more than 50% of egress paths changing or anything, we're going to consider that needing to be reviewed. This would also include changes in use, new automatic sprinkler system, or the upgrade, and this would be the over 50% upgrade. If it's just maintenance on a system, changing out a few heads or whatever, it does not need to be reviewed. New fire alarm system or upgrade. There again, a few smoke detectors having issues and being replaced due to age or whatever, not going to need submitted. However, the new panel or all new devices or any addition to a fire alarm system does need reviewed. All temporary egress needs reviewed. We're going to discuss temporary egress a lot more as we move along. Temporary egress is a major problem, as you all are aware, on construction sites. But what temporary egress plans do is it allows us to have a look at what they're planning for temporary egress prior to the start of the construction project. We understand things change sometimes, but it's a good place to start, and we can look at it and review it. Plan submittal is not required for the redecorating, replacement of kind, so that's just swapping out an HVAC for an HVAC, that sort of thing. Corrective or preventive maintenance and minor alterations or renovations less than 50%. I would recommend just probably the same as your local jurisdiction, but if someone questions whether or not they should submit for a project. An email or a phone call is a pretty good plan. On healthcare, we review under the 2000 Life Safety Code. It's an FPA 101 for CMS projects, which is skilled nursing centers, hospitals, ambulatory surgery centers, etc. For non-CMS or Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Service projects, it would be under 2006 IFC. The other healthcare codes that fall under the 2000 life safety are the 99 fire alarm code, 99 edition of NFPA 13 for sprinkler systems, and 99 edition of NFPA 110 for emergency and standby power systems. We are currently in the process of doing a code adoption at our agency. We're currently under the 2006 I codes, IBC, and IFC. We are planning at this point to adopt the 2012 June of 2016. We are right now in the process of taking questions, concerns, making revisions. If we need to do that, if there's something that you'd like us to look at, let us know now so we can take a look at it. We are currently accepting projects designed under the 2012 code. We have been for several months, and we will continue to. Most of your local jurisdictions have already went to 2012 or are looking at doing so. So that kind of helps us and helps the facilities as well as the designers design to only one code. Same for 2009. We will review facilities designed under 2009 for your local jurisdictions that are under that code. The other new codes that we are adopting along with the 2012 I codes are 2013 NFPA 10, 2013 NFPA 13, and 2013 NFPA 13D and R, 2013 NFPA 14, 2013 NFPA 17, 2013 17A, 2014 NFPA 25, 2012 NFPA 30, 2012 NFPA 30A, 2013 NFPA 52. This one's actually a new code that we've not adopted before. On natural gas fueling stations and so forth. There are several of those out and about now and more in the design process. So this code is what we will use for review on that. 2014 National Electric Code NFPA 70, 2013 NFPA 72, 2014 NFPA 96, 2011 NFPA 102. This is one of those rare codes that we don't get into a whole lot. However, it's a very necessary code for the grandstands, folding and telescopic seating, tents and membrane structures. This is a lot of the temporary buildings. 2013 edition of NFPA 110, 2012 NFPA 170, 2012 NFPA 385. Remember, and we'll talk about this NFPA 110, remember these are the codes that the state is currently adopting. However, CMS is still under the older codes, including the NFPA 110. So on the CMS projects, the hospitals, nursing homes, and so forth, we're looking at that under the older versions of the codes. Okay, we'll talk a little bit about the K50 inspections. What K50 inspections are is our rough-in. Whenever we can coordinate these rough ends with the local jurisdiction, fantastic. We really like to do that. We understand that local jurisdiction is the eyes that are on the projects constantly. We're probably only going to see these projects once before they're completed. And as you all know, that's not enough to catch every issue. What we look at on a K50 is we're trying to catch major problems before they're covered up or before it's very expensive to correct them. So there again, this program was kind of written for contractors and designers as well, so understand that as we move forward through here. We understand that construction is likely going to begin prior to plan approval, but keep in mind it's at the builder's own risk or the facility's own risk. If we do a plan review and find something needs changed, if the facility is already past that point in construction, then they're going to have to go back and make corrections. When we get code footprints and initial reviews on code footprints, we understand that projects a lot of times are going to begin at that point. Sprinkler and fire alarm plans are often deferred submittals, especially on a design build project. We will go ahead and do a 50% inspection without sprinkler and fire alarm plan reviews being complete. A 30-day notice is required for all 50% inspections, but it's very advisable to stay in contact with the inspector through email so you're sure to have the inspection at the appropriate level of construction. On these 50% and final inspections, the architect is the one that's required to make notice that they're ready for the inspections or that they will be ready for the inspections in 30 days. Obviously, a lot happens in 30 days on a construction site, so we're not going to take that 30-day as gospel. We're going to work with the contractors and the owners and find out when they are truly going to be ready for the 50% and final inspections. We do need to do a 50% final prior to drywall. On the firewalls with multiple layers of drywall, if one layer is complete, it's a benefit for us. We would prefer to see the sprinkler trunk line and fire alarm rough end completed at a 50% inspection. There again, not always going to happen, but when it is, it helps for us. Our goal is not to cite things at a 50% inspection. We know nothing is to code at that point, but what we do want to do is catch potential problems early in the process so that they can easily be repaired. On the final inspection, just like 50%, they're required to notify their licensing agent, ADHME, 30 days prior to substantial completion. There again, we're going to work with the contractors and with the building owners to actually come up with a date for that. If local jurisdiction wants to be involved with final inspections, I know for at least my area, I usually know the local jurisdictions that do want to be involved. Make it known to us that you do want to be involved if you have not been up to this point. We will not schedule a final inspection if the sprinkler or fire alarm plans are still pending. Those have to be approved prior to a final inspection. All required documentation needs to be in a binder and on site. And that binder needs to stay with the facility to where every year at annual inspections or whenever necessary, it's available for the inspectors. No entourage of contractors is required for the final inspection as it slows down the process, but it may be to their advantage if the key trades are immediately accessible. I'm sure most of you have been on these final inspections where you've got 20 contractors with you. It makes it very difficult to get through the inspection, and you spend more time answering questions and having small talk than you do getting the inspection done. So if the entourage gets too large, I'll tell the contractor, let's slim it down a little bit so we can get through it quicker. Final inspection document will be emailed to the responsible party. This is the inspection results. We're going to email it to the facility. Deficiencies must be addressed in a plan of correction, and the plan must be approved prior to occupancy. So if on a final inspection we find deficiencies, at that point, we're going to send a notice to the facility. They're going to have to tell us how and when those items are going to be corrected, and that will decide when they will be approved for occupancy. We do not do temporary certificates of occupancy. We have contractors asking for this all the time. A lot of times with contractors, they're going to be able to make another draw on their salary at certificate of occupancy or temporary certificate of occupancy. We don't do it. We understand local jurisdictions will allow temporary certificates, and that's fine, but understand that we don't. Fire protection and egress must be at 100%. We don't care about paint, trim, carpet, that sort of thing. Landscape, which is a big one that we're going to see temporaries on. We don't care, but the fire systems and egress has got to be perfect. There again, this next comment's for the contractors. Do not invite us to do a punch list for you. Our schedule won't allow for it. If we show up for an inspection and the project is far from being ready for the inspection, we're not going to complete the inspection at that point. We're going to say, call us, reschedule us when you're ready, and we'll cruise out at that point. Upon successful completion of this process, a referral will be sent to the licensing agency describing our approval to occupy. And what we're going to say on that is the remodel of the such and such area is approved to occupy. We may include our maximum occupancy numbers for that area in that referral. That referral is what KDH&E and the licensing agencies are waiting on to allow a facility to occupy.
Johnny Park, Burton's Court. Hey, Mike, how are you?
Temporary egress.
Tried to call you back.
This is a big one.
You had already left.
As far as problems that we run into, and I'm sure you guys do as well.
Well,
I know that you call us several times
I was
because,
supposed to get your voicemail,
like we
but then
mentioned earlier, you're the
like an extension. Just call them back
may
after
see
my
them
meeting.
once prior to final.
No,
But
it's a webinar, so I'm
temporary
fine.
egress issues can go from good to bad very quickly. It's the most frequently found deficiency at a K50 inspection.
That was one of our
That's our reference. The minimum exit path width cannot be shrunk due to construction. If a 4-foot wide corridor is required, it must have a 4-foot wide corridor.
I can run out there. No big deal. We'll get you taken care of.
Exiting cannot be through a hazardous area or a construction site. If their temporary exit plan shows through a hazardous area or through a construction site in the review process, we'll deny it. But oftentimes during the process, for one reason or another, that egress will get changed. If we find it through a hazardous area or construction site, we're going to require that to be corrected immediately. A temporary egress plan must be included on the code footprint submittal or submitted as a standalone plan review. Especially on the big projects, everything from the big school remodels or the hospital remodels, so forth. Sometimes it's easier to do a temporary egress plan as a standalone review. Another thing that we get into on the temporary egress reviews is they do need to constantly change. Many different reasons, obviously, but if phasing on construction changes in the process and temporary egress plans need to be changed to compensate for that, that's fine, and it's easier to do another plan review if it's just that small section that is the temporary egress plans. As far as the local jurisdictions, whatever works best for you guys, but that works best for us. If the temporary egress is not as shown in the approved plans, it is a deficiency and likely will trigger a fire watch until it's corrected. So that's going to be our course of action. We're either going to require a fire watch, or we will evacuate the building if necessary, if it's to that extent. And we will do our best to notify local jurisdiction when we find a situation like this to make you guys aware if you're not with us. A couple of issues that we ran onto with temporary egress. A lot of times they'll close off certain areas, like you see the chains and the padlock on the panic bars there. We know if there's exit signs and they point to this, whether it's through a construction site or through a hazardous area, it's got to, if it looks like an exit, it's got to act like an exit. So this is not allowed. We need to make certain in temporary egress that exit signs are also altered as necessary. On the right, see a problem that's quite frequently found where supplies for the new construction, whether it's construction materials or furniture, that sort of thing, are stacked and stored in the corridors. In this case, definitely narrows the corridor to the point that we would have serious issue with that. Same on both of those. These are problems that we're going to see. The tools piled in a stairwell in this case, tools and ladders and stuff. And even if this is an upper floor, the photo on the right of the stairwell, even if that's an upper floor that's being remodeled, if that stair tower is common with egress below, then it's going to be an issue for us that we're going to have corrected. Okay, we'll talk a little bit about construction separation. If rooms are normally classified as a hazardous area, this will be your storage rooms exceeding 100 square feet, boiler rooms, soil linen rooms, etc. They must be separated with a minimum of 1 hour assembly during construction as well. In a sprinkler building, a non-rated partition is allowed, but seams and gaps must be taped to seal to resist the passage of smoke. So what we're saying here is if they use one layer of 5/8 drywall over metal studs, that's fine, but you got to fire tape the gaps above, below, and in between the drywall, because these areas still must seal to resist the passage of smoke so that our detection can work. Ductwork that is common between a construction area with hot work must be equipped with duct detectors or have a rated damper tied to local detection in the separation wall. So we know in a sprinklered building, we usually don't require dampers through walls. However, if it is a construction area where they're going to be doing hot work, they've got to add a damper at that area and tie it to local detection or a heat link. It is allowed to replace smoke detection with heat detection within the construction area. This still provides early notification versus the smoke detectors being removed or covered. We do allow facilities to write or stamp those detectors, heat detection, not a life safety device, and those heat detectors can move from job to job. No problem with that. There should be no storage of tools, equipment, supplies in non-rated rooms within the occupied portion of the building. We often find this in a nursing home. An empty patient room becomes a storage room for supplies during construction. It cannot happen. If there's a rated storage room, it can be used, but the non-rated rooms cannot be. If the construction barriers terminate at the ceiling, and the ceiling in the construction area will not resist the passage of smoke, then non-flammable plastic sheeting may be used to extend the separation wall to the roof deck or floor deck above. So what this is talking about, in a sprinkler building with a suspended ceiling, the construction barrier can terminate at the suspended ceiling. However, they must use fire-rated visqueen or another rated material above the wall up to the deck. This holds the smoke, holds the products of combustion, and will allow detection and so forth to work. All right, if you got questions, feel free to type them out now and we can answer them now, or my email address is there. If I don't know the questions off the top of my head, it's a lot easier by email because I can research and send you the answers that you're looking for. If somebody needs unmuted at this point for a question, we could do that too.
If you don't have questions at this point, like Brian said, please feel free to email him. We'll be happy to get back to you. The two attachments that Brian talked about at the beginning, I will email those to you as well as the recorded copy of this. It doesn't look like anybody has questions as of now, so we'll go ahead and close out our session, but I'd like to thank everybody for participating. It helps a lot to have you let us know what kind of topics you would like to learn about or have some more information on. So keep those ideas coming as you come across more. Please let me know. I'm happy to put those together. So thanks for joining, and thank you, Brian, for speaking today, and we'll be in touch with you.